there are more answers than you know.
I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the channel members. I appreciate you guys so much. If you'd like to become a channel member, the link is below. And to everyone in the live chat tonight or watching the replay, thank you so much for your support.
Each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker. And there was no sexual assault. County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
All right, everybody. So welcome back to What's the Obsession live stream and chat. And this evening we are talking about the case in Idaho, what's going on with Bryan Kohberger in the trial proceedings as we work up to an eventual trial, we certainly hope. And just all of the intricacies and nuances that happen with any trial, of course, but with this case in particular, I find some of the, legal questions and just questions surrounding how this trial is shaping up to be absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome everybody watching the replay. Welcome to those of you in chat. I saw a couple of you said it's your first time here. Welcome. I hope that you feel like you can say whatever you want as long as you're respectful to the other people in chat, to the victims and to the victims' families. Those are the rules here, and especially moderators. You guys absolutely rock. And Karen G, I'm so happy you finally made it here. Kay Brace, wonderful to see you. Cindy, I'm not going to say hello to everybody because I see all of you and I'm glad you're here. Hi, Brandywine True Crime. And so now we know that, okay, so there's an issue of Bryan Kohberger's alibi, right? And of course, anytime you are charged with a criminal offense, and that criminal offense means that you had to be somewhere doing something that was, critical, crucial material to committing the crime, an alibi might be your defense. Now, you might think, well, duh, of course, an alibi is going to be your defense. Hi, JLo, how are you doing? But there's actually 17 different, common criminal defenses that are used in the United States that tend to be effective when faced with criminal charges. Now, I want to talk, of course, specifically about Bryan Kohberger and a couple of questions. Number one, is the state demanding that Bryan Kohberger, put forth an alibi? Is that constitutional in and of itself? This is one of the legal issues that different states, the United States of America, and the 50 different jurisdictions handle differently. I know that for sure. And the way that Now, I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. I just have somebody who is the WotC Obsession legal consultant. And, we study, the documents and the proceedings and the trials and law here, right? But I think that you might agree with me that it seems there's some really interesting things going on in Idaho, or just some funny things going on in Idaho, compared to how things go down when you're preparing for a trial in other states. Now, I know this issue of an alibi has been talked about for a while, and the deadline has passed. I just, I had to take about a week off of YouTube because I just had to take care of some career stuff, some family stuff. And I'm so glad to be back to see y'all. I wasn't going to do a live stream tonight, but I was like, I miss my peeps. I'm definitely going to do it. I think even though Bryan Kohberger's potential alibi has been discussed, I've been listening to a lot of the discussions going around on this topic. I don't think everything has been covered, but you're going to let me know what you think. So here. McJay said, "What alibi?" There is no alibi thus far, but we're gonna that's kind of a complicated question, so we're gonna answer that during the course of this live stream. Oops. Recently, in the Idaho State versus Bryan Kohberger case, there's been a lot of talk about the possibility of Bryan Kohberger submitting an alibi, of the state demanding an alibi. As of today, which is June 30th, 2023, no alibi or intent to submit an alibi has been officially filed. So what exactly does that mean? Well, as far as criminal defense goes, there are 17 common defenses to criminal charges in the United States. Of these, and that sounds like, wow, there's 17 possible defenses. Well, as you read through them and keep just about any case in mind, or keep in mind particularly Bryan Kohberger's situation, you easily start to find that not all or most or even a good handful of these 17 possible defenses to criminal charges could apply to Bryan Kohberger. Now, the closest thing we've heard about to an alibi is in the defense's response to the state's alibi demand. I'm just going to read part of it here. Okay, so listen up, because this is important stuff, and you may have heard this before, but I want to do a little, like we do, deep diving into this, because there's a lot of places to go. Mr. Kohberger notes that Idaho Code 19.5.19.4 preserves his constitutional right to silence as well as to testify on his own behalf. Mr. Kohberger stands firm on his constitutional right as well as the statutory recognition of that right. Noteworthy is that an alibi, quote, indicates a line of proof by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime of which he is accused because he was elsewhere at the time. A defendant's denial of the charges against him does not constitute an alibi, but as soon as he offers evidence that he was at some place other than where the crime of which he is charged was committed, then he is raising the alibi defense. So let's think in terms of those 17 possible defenses to criminal charges. Mr. Kohberger's defense team continues investigating and preparing his case. Evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than King Road address will be disclosed pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules as well as statutory requirements. it is anticipated this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witness produced by the state, as well as calling expert witnesses. Well, ain't that something? Now, considering that the authorities have tracked what is believed to be Bryan Kohberger's car in approximately 20 different security camera, ring camera, or some kind of camera vantage points as he traveled from Pullman to Moscow and then Moscow back to Pullman, and they can mark the location of this vehicle that they believe to be Bryan Kohberger's, and they believe Bryan Kohberger's in it almost every step of the way. And Kohberger has his phone with him and is traveling with the car when he leaves his apartment in Pullman, Washington at 2:42 a.m. And that phone travels with the car. We can tell this according to the pings and the FBI CAS technology and methodology that was used. And the phone turns off at 2:47 a.m. Now, during the time when Kohberger would be entering into Moscow, committing the crimes, and then returning back to Pullman, Washington, the phone remains off until 4:48 a.m. When Kohberger's phone does turn back on at 4:48 a.m., he is pinging near Blaine, Idaho, which is north of Genesee, which is a little less than half of his route, the convoluted route that he chose to take back to Pullman. And between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., his phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with a phone traveling back towards Pullman, Washington. So, considering that the authorities, according to what they say they have as evidence, have Bryan Kohberger's car, or his alleged car, on about 20 different security camera vantage points from Pullman to Moscow and Moscow to Pullman, and they have that phone traveling with the car for the first 5 minutes of his route from Pullman to Moscow and the last half an hour or so from his route back from Moscow to Pullman. If the defense is saying that Bryan Kohberger's alibi is that he was not at 1122 King Road in Moscow at the time of the crimes, then what could his alibi be? Now, again, the biggest hint that we get from Kohberger's defense is that they say it is anticipated this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state, as well as calling expert witnesses. Now, please do remember, in all of these documents that are filed either by the defense or the state, these professional practicing attorneys must be making these motions or responses on a good faith basis, which means they can't just bullshit their way through the document. They have to make these statements on a good faith basis based on what they know or believe to be true. So we have to consider that when looking at this equation. So, wow, guys, I have a couple ideas of what I think that could mean and what I think it could not mean. But before I talk about that, well, of course, I want to know what you think all of that means. So now, oh gosh, this becomes, let me just pull this down here. Stop screen. And let me actually just pull up the document really quickly that I was referencing in that video. And welcome everybody who just joined in. Welcome to everybody who's watching the replay, who's here in chat. And moderators, you guys are awesome. And I very much appreciate it. I know you had to work hard last time, and I appreciate you guys so much. I think this one's it. Okay, yeah. So, okay. So there's this issue, of course, is Bryan Kohberger going to submit an official alibi? Now, the reason that he would enter an alibi is for the same purpose that all anything of evidentiary value is shared through the process of discovery, and that is because you don't want the justice system to work on a gotcha basis, right? You want the justice system to work on its own merits. So the sharing that is done through discovery is so one side or the other is not caught off guard, or one side or the other does not have an unfair advantage because they happen to be super strategic, good game player, that kind of thing, right? So we all know that. Does that make sense? So, oh, I wonder what was said, McJay. I didn't even see that. Oh, I'm so used to the nasty things. So I think another important thing to remember is something that I just mentioned in the end of that little pre-recorded piece, and that is the idea of that the prosecution or the defense can't just go put in anything other than the kitchen sink or including the kitchen sink when they're filing these motions, when they're responding, whatever they're including in these legal documents needs to be included. It needs to be said. These motions need to be made on a good faith basis. Upon this good faith basis, their credentials, their licensure to practice law depends. So I promise you, or I'm sure you could surmise yourself, they take that very seriously, right? You guys are cracking me up in chat there. Double R and his hot air balloon. Yeah. So, okay. So this document is from, let me go just take a peek really quick. There's been, as is always true in this case, a whole slew of documents filed very recently. This is the defense's response. Okay. So the defendant's response to the state's alibi demand was filed on July 24th. So now it is July 30th. So I know we're going back in time a little bit, but again, there's a lot to look at here, and there were successive responses or court documents filed that we're going to take a look at. All right. So Kohberger notes that Idaho Code preserves his constitutional right to silence as well as to testify on his own behalf. So read, he can take the Fifth Amendment. He doesn't have to say a word throughout, the legal process and the court process that he is being pushed through. It is his right under the Fifth Amendment to not say anything. That's where the Miranda rights come from when you're dealing with law enforcement. And that is why we know that you do not have to testify at a trial where you are charged criminally, right? Going back to the document, Mr. Kohberger stands firm on his constitutional right as well as the statutory recognition of that right. Noteworthy is that his alibi indicates a line of proof by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime of which he is accused because he was elsewhere at the time. Now, don't you just love how, this legalese takes words and twists them up and does something really special with them? I mean, I understand what this statement is saying, particularly towards the end of it, but I think it's worth reading one more time because I think the wording here is very important. Noteworthy is that an alibi indicates a line of proof. So is that a line of reason, logical steps by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime of which he is accused because he was elsewhere at the time. Problematic for so many reasons, but let's go on. A defendant's denial of the charges against him does not constitute an alibi. So here we're distinguishing between, pleading and putting forth an alibi. But as soon as he offers evidence that he was someplace other than where the crime of which he is charged was committed, he is raising the alibi defense. Now, I just want to point out here that it is possible to reach a successful alibi defense by making an argument or putting forth evidence. It doesn't have to say he wasn't at this place. There's a number of different ways this can be done. So the fact that in these court documents, the defense is only referring to the possibility of raising an alibi defense by showing that Kohberger was someplace other than where the crime he was charged of was committed tells us very clearly that he is fixing to simply say that he was not there. Stay with me if you're thinking, we already knew this. Stay with me. Back to the document. Mr. Kohberger's defense continues investigating and preparing his case. I hope. Evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than the King Road address will be disclosed pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules, as well as statutory requirements. It is anticipated this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state, as well as calling expert witnesses. So before there's any eye rolling or any reaction like that, remember, these statements must be made by Kohberger's attorney, whoever's writing this document, on a good faith basis. So these statements or these assumptions or assertions need to be grounded in good fact as they know it. Hey, GOP Nick, how are you doing? That's such a based alibi. Or I wasn't there. I was somewhere else, and I'm not telling you. I know, right? Okay, it's funny. So interesting that they're saying we are not putting forth an alibi right now or a theory of alibi. But, evidence is corroborating that he's elsewhere is going to be disclosed through discovery and looking at the evidence. I'm just putting this into plain English. And, doing so by the means of trial law. We expect evidence may pop up, by the way, through cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state, as well as calling expert witnesses. So I think that's really interesting. And I've heard people, talk about, that statement in a number of different ways. To me, it says one of two things. Jeannie Ramsey, I think this is kind of where we were going when we had to make choices during the last live stream. Either the defense here knows exactly what they're talking about, exactly what they're going for, and they have a plan. They know the witnesses that the state is going to call. Of course, they have to. That's part of discovery and information sharing. And they have a plan as to how they are going to excavate the information that is going to be put forth to the court and the jury and all the world that is going to exonerate Bryan Kohberger, if they had all their wishes, right? Or could this mean, they're saying, this is going to come about through cross-examining, the state's witnesses and also expert testimony. Is this saying we ain't got not one thing? We don't have anything. We have nothing. We are working on a wing and a prayer here, and we are praying really hard that the state is going to bring forth some witnesses that we are going to be able to peck away at. So our defense is fed, some little crumbs of nourishment so we can keep going. I don't know. What do you guys think? Kay Bray says, right, why not give an alibi on day one when arrested? I mean, I do feel, and if you don't have a criminal mind and you are not up to something, it seems to me, well, from a behavioral perspective, that is a natural thing to do. Let's see. Cat runs across your keyboard. I'm just going to bring something in here really quick while I'm grabbing something else. We're going to see what Nancy has to say really quick. This is 2 minutes.
That's what's happening right now, because this is total BS. And it makes me question the lawyer. Now, I've never heard any questions regarding her aptitude. I heard murmurs and complaints and grumbling that she had once represented one of the victims' family member and now dumped that family member to represent Kohberger. That's a conflict of interest issue that does not bear on the evidence in the Bryan Kohberger case. This does. I mean, Cheryl McCollum, correct me if I'm wrong. Cheryl McCollum is with me, founder, director, Cold Case Research Institute, star, a hit new podcast, Zone 7, and you can find her at coldcasecrimes.org. Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't his cell phone caught? It's turned off at the time of the murders, but then it turns on during his drive that night, leaving the crime scene, according to police?
Correct. And they also have his car on video going past a filling station.
Oh, gosh, wait. Hold this thought, Cheryl McCollum. He also says that's not his car. Okay, so that's another thing we've got. Okay, we have, I've got an alibi, but I'm going to keep it a dark secret. I wasn't there. And I'll let you catch that bomb when I throw it at you in court. Number 2, you planted the DNA, by the way. And number 3, yeah, that's not my car. But what about the cell phone? The cell phone, Cheryl McCollum. What, did somebody else have a cell phone driving from the murder scene all the way back to his apartment the night of the murders?
That's right. So instead of the cell phone being on his bedside table at 4 a.m. and active, this phone is pinging off different towers. And then before the murders, it is engaged by the owner of that cell phone, Kohberger, and he puts it on airplane mode, thinking that would not, connect him to that house. It failed. It failed miserably.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Do you understand the charge in count 2?
So my girl Nancy there is bringing home the point. She always does. Gosh, if it's still even saying that, who am I to even comment on Nancy's good work? Let me bring something back in here. Okay. So now, guys, I guess a question that I want to put out to everybody is, listen, as I've said before, and I know many of you feel this way, with various cases, true crime cases over time, when you're looking at the defense versus prosecution, or the idea of corruption, or, believing that everything is all, is all peachy keen and there's no problems and justices. I've gone in whatever direction, always to the best of my ability at the time that the facts and the evidence takes me. I don't have an agenda on one side or the other. I really and truly don't. The way that I'm seeing things, I'm just going to be honest, is the way the evidence is lining up, the evidence that we do know, and I could be proven wrong at any time, tomorrow, 5 minutes from now, or certainly in trial, but this is just how I see things. So please bear with me, and let's just all stay respectful in chat, please. Everything that is pointing in a direction is pointing towards his guilt. And that's just how I see it. And again, I'm not married to it. This is one of these cases where I'm like almost afraid to say that, which is silliness. All of the evidence and the facts are pointing towards his guilt when they are pointing in one direction or the other. And it's hard for me to get around that. So people that don't see it that way, I'm really very interested to hear from you. If we could, speak, issue to issue on how you see it differently. Oh my gosh. The link is in chat. Come on up, because I would love to have that conversation. I really am committed to remaining open-minded for the sake of justice. That's what we are all about here, facts and justice. I'm having a hard time seeing things point towards his innocence. The crimes and then returning. Okay, so here's one of the main reasons why. We brushed over this. I want to go over it again. Of this vehicle that they believe to be Bryan Moscow, and then Moscow Kohberger's car, and approximately 20 different security is calling expert witnesses. Well, ain't that some? Now, considering that the authorities have tracked what is believed to be Bryan Kohberger's car in approximately 20 different security camera, ring camera, or some kind of camera vantage points as he traveled from Pullman to Moscow and then Moscow back to Pullman, and they can mark the location of this vehicle that they believe to be Bryan Kohberger's, and they believe Bryan Kohberger's in it almost every step of the way. And Kohberger has his phone with him and is traveling with the car when he leaves his apartment in Pullman, Washington at 2:42 a.m. Okay, so when Bryan Kohberger leaves his apartment at 2:42 a.m., I mean, I just can't say this enough. When you go over the details and the facts, let's just figure out what makes sense here. His car is moving with his phone. His phone is moving with his car. I still have to get out the second half of that FBI cast video that I promised you, but like I said, I had to take the past week off to deal with some career and family things, so I do apologize for that. It is coming. I can assure you that they were able to track his car for those 5 minutes, and they were able to track his phone, which you probably know. So from 2:42 a.m. to 2:47 a.m., the man, the car, and the cell phone are traveling together. And that phone travels with the car. We can tell this according to the pings and the FBI cast technology and methodology that was used. And the phone turns off at 2:47 a.m. Now, during the time when Kohberger would be entering into Moscow, committing the crimes, and then returning back to Pullman, Washington, the phone remains off until 4:48 a.m. Okay, so now we have the phone. It's turned off from 2:47 a.m. when Kohberger is about 5 minutes from his house, and it remains off, excuse me, until 4:48 a.m., 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. And at the point where his phone turns back on, you can once again track the movement of the phone with the movement of the vehicle. We assume the man is in there unless somebody stole his car and stole his phone and stole his puppy. I don't know. When Kohberger's phone does turn back on at 4:48 a.m., he is pinging near Blaine, Idaho, which is north of Genesee, which is a little less than half of his route, the convoluted route that he chose to take back to Pullman. And between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., his phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with a phone traveling back towards Pullman, Washington. Okay, so I've got to pick up this comment here. So, let's see. Oh gosh, Kathy, am I Michigan? I'm not sure, but welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So now I'm going to disagree with this, but I really am glad you're here. The cell phone pings aren't specific to an exact location. The whole of Moscow area is on one single tower, so it doesn't tell much. Well, it can get a little confusing with cell phone towers and cell phone pings, and I certainly do not claim to be an expert in many things that we talk about in true crime. I'm not an expert on this, but many of you know that I did work as a site acquisition specialist in telecom for 5.5 years. My client was Verizon. My territory was a little bit north of Philadelphia to a little bit south of Atlantic City, and I facilitated the expansion of the wireless capacity so the Pope could come visit the country. That was my big resume, like boom. And then I took a job after that, and it was not a boom, and that's what we call a resume waste. Anyway, so this is like complicated stuff to talk about. I am able to decode it a little bit. There are more than one cell phone towers that are serving Moscow. I'm not sure where the one tower conversation started, but that is categorically not true. And I can probably rather quickly pull up some visuals and show that to you. In fact, the way that Moscow is covered is a little bit complex because there's a number of different carriers, and even more than we would have here and like where I am in New York, because there's a couple of different carriers, and I need to do some more research on this, that are, native and specific to that very, like, I want to say region, but it's more localized than that. I've been told that this is a West Coast thing. If anybody knows about that, please do let me know. So I am remiss to still not have gotten the second half of the FBI cast methodology and technology video out to you, because if I had already gotten that out to you like I wanted to, then this would all be explained. But through the process of researching all of that, they truly can pinpoint the location of a phone within a few feet. It is true. And I don't want you to just take my word for it. When a video does come out, and I'm not going to make a promise on date or time because I don't want to break my promise again, that will all be explained. I would love to explain it now, but honestly, I couldn't even do it without my notes. It's more complex than I can just off the cuff it, Let's see. Yeah, I do think Ann Taylor do think she is very good. And because I do think she is very good, it makes me wonder all the more. She definitely leaves a mystery in my mind. Hi, Emily. How are you doing? Welcome. What if somebody called him and asked him to go to Moscow? Okay. Possibly. So, Mitch, does his car have a GPS or a system that they tracked? We don't know about that. I was given information by someone, and then I saw another channel as well. I don't know if it was the same person, who is claiming that the make and model of his car has that kind of technology, like if you watch the Murdaugh case, that Alex Murdaugh's car had in it, where they can track every little movement you make, reverse, speed, how long, idling. I don't know if that is true or not. Honestly, if anybody does have more information about that, please let me know. It's something I need to look more into. Yeah, I agree with you here, Kathy. The car images are also fuzzy, kind of hard to confirm the exact identity of who it is and which car. So, I think that is addressed a little bit in the PCA, where I think they're kind of explaining the discrepancy in, first we told you to look for a Hyundai Elantra of this date range, and then it switched a bit, right? And then this is what his car really is. And the author of the PCA talks about how, until we all know how fuzzy and grainy those security camera videos usually are. So he talks about, until they sent that footage to Quantico, where they could have it analyzed and, have the resolution worked with in a way that only you can do in a lab in Quantico, they were really uncertain about a few things. But definitely, just as we are looking at it, as it appears, without being doctored, it's really fuzzy. Yeah. So Cindy says to Carrie, I don't know why so many spread hate on Ann Taylor, as to represent her client is her duty. Absolutely. We should be worried if she was, being lackadaisical in that duty. As a PD, her number came up for this. As a public defender, her number came up for this case. They rotate. You can only get off if there is a conflict of interest. Thank you for clarifying that, Cindy. That's consistent with what I've learned as well. Truth Seeker says to GOP Nick, I thought about that too. He could have been asked to go out there for some reason. Okay, so let's go down this rabbit hole. If Kohberger was summoned to Moscow, Idaho, who would have summoned him? Why? And that still doesn't well, I guess that would explain why the phone and the car and the man were traveling together in that direction and then from that direction, right? Okay. Hey, Deb, I haven't seen a video of BK driving. I don't know if I mean, I truly do not know if we are ever going to get that specific in what you can see in that security camera footage. However, I'm going to show you as close as I think we get. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And then I'd really like to at least be able to hopefully show you those cell towers that are serving Moscow, because if we could put a kibosh to that rumor, that would be my one wish for the result of this live stream. One rumor down. Moscow is not served by one cell phone tower only. I've heard a lot of people say it.
June 2000.
All right. Everybody take a listen.
He then goes on to say, on December 23rd, pursuant to the search warrant, I received those historical records for Bryan Kohberger's phone number for the account that was opened in June of 2022. After consulting with CAF, I was able to determine estimated locations for Kohberger's phone number from June 2022 to the present time.
Yes, Truth Seeker, there are 3 towers, or at that time, 3 towers, active towers in Moscow. Now, with matters of co-location and other things, and it's not as simple as it sounds there, but ding, 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 Truth Seeker is seeking the truth and found it. That is right. Thank you so much.
Time period authorized by the court. The records for the Bryan Kohberger's phone number showed that phone utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the areas of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning.
I'm sorry. I'm not where I want to be.
Location of the traffic stop during this time frame, and that is on Farm Road.
Okay, let me just go back a couple seconds here. So what we are speaking to here, what I'm trying to show you something about is, you know, somebody said, I haven't seen any footage of Bryan Kohberger, his likeness, actually driving the car. And my response is, I think this is as close as we get as far as evidence goes that I'm aware of.
10:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. His phone number was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time frame, and that is on Farm Road and Pullman Highway. So that basically, guys, verifies that Kohberger was with his phone, the phone that they had identified as being used by the cellular resources by the King Road residents, when he was stopped at that traffic stop. So now they are putting Kohberger physically with his phone. Do you see the strength of this evidence? Circumstantial, yes. Strong, hell yes.
For circumstantial.
Further analysis of the cellular data provided showed that the phone number utilized cellular resources on November 13th, consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho via U.S. Highway I-95. At approximately 12:36 p.m., his phone number utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe Coffee, located at 810 Port Drive in Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef's store located nearby that location, the coffee shop, showed the white Elantra, consistent with suspect vehicle number 1, drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with cellular data from Bryan Kohberger's phone number. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of Albertson's grocery store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkston, Washington. And again, surveillance footage identified a car consistent with a white Elantra. And additionally, interior surveillance at that grocery store showed Bryan Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. And then there is a map that depicts Kohberger's possible path of travel right here and in the probable cause affidavit. So now, my friends, when you break that down, they are putting Bryan Kohberger's cell phone pinging in a certain location with video camera surveillance footage of a car consistent with his white Elantra and the man himself, Bryan Kohberger, on that interior security camera footage of the grocery store. So now we have the phone, the car, and the man all together.
Okay, so there's that, right? So I think that's as close as we get to actually seeing him driving his car. Now, somebody also had mentioned something about, it would have been pitch black outside at that time, though. So I don't think it's that easy to see people, is it? Good question. Keep it simple. So this is what we do here on What's the Obsession. We find data to guide us in the direction of the truth. Check it. So here I'm looking at historical weather and moon phases for Pullman, Washington. Okay, so check it. November 13th, 2022. All right. I haven't looked at this until just now, so I'm going to have to maybe take a minute interpreting it. Okay. But yeah. So here we have, all right. Well, at 1 a.m., it is 61 degrees Fahrenheit. At 3 a.m., it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit. It dips down to 53, and then it starts getting warmer again. There is no precipitation. Let me make sure I'm sharing this with you. And yes, I am. Okay, good. And, interestingly enough, the wind was very mild and didn't start kicking up until right around 9 a.m. when Kohberger was making his way back towards Moscow, ostensibly. It calmed down a little windy through the afternoon, and that was about it. Now, what I want to see is the moon phases. Okay. So it's calm. It's a rather fair wind. Okay. So, all right. So the moon is a waxing gibbous. Oh, Melanie, who is my friend who teaches earth science, help me out here. A waxing gibbous. Okay. So astronomical twilight, 3:11 a.m., 10. I don't even know what that means. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Wait a minute. Am I looking at the 13th still? Because that doesn't sound like. No, this must be present day. Okay, so I'm going to have to look a little deeper to get to the historical lunar phase data. All right, fine. Sometimes we try, and then we have to try again. All right. I will be working on that because I'm going to have to. I've been wanting to research that anyhow. Let's see what's going on here, chat. Cindy, I heard today someone speculating the trial won't start till October. This won't start this October. I speculation nation. I can't. It's not going to start in October. Does anyone think it's going to start in October? Yeah. Mike was like, yes. Miss Lily C, how are you doing? There's something in the car like a black box that can tell the info. That's exactly what I was talking about. So again, I have to research that myself, but this person who passed along this information, it looked legitimate. I just have a second chance to go over it and to see if I give it the stamp of approval. So that his car does have something like that in it. But again, I don't know. That person could have just been sending me, nonsense. Kate Bray says, I was just thinking it would be easy enough to just say, hey, someone called me to come there. Well, I think that they would, if we're still talking about the same thing, then follow up with, the phone data from the people involved. But I might be missing something too. I would hope so. My gosh, when there are, quadruple homicides and, loss of 4 precious young lives and another man's life at stake, No, True Seeker, you're totally right. That's right. Absolutely right. Carrie H, you know what? Carrie H says all cars made after 2014 have a black box. That is mandated. I believe that to be true. I came across that somewhere when I was researching recently. And I don't ever just take anyone's word for it, but that rings true to me, Carrie. And thank you so much for saying so. So yeah, I mean, I wonder, is that super sealed Exhibit A? Does that have to do with all of that? I don't know. I'm going to call it the Murdoch data. What's that called? Can't remember what it's called. It starts with a T. I don't know what the term is. Oh, hey, thank you. The Zodiac Killer's Daughter. Wow. Welcome. How are you doing? I think it was definitely Bryan the White Elantra. The wrong manufacturer year was released initially because I believe Bryan's true identity used to drive that year Elantra. I believe Bryan's true identity used. Am I reading that wrong? I want to know what you're saying. I think I might be reading that wrong. And Carrie H says there are 4 cell towers serving Pullman. I didn't commit that to memory, but possibly. There's a heck of a lot more than 1 across that region. Oh yeah, y'all. Hey, if you haven't hit the like button yet, go take a moment to do that, please. I would really appreciate it. We appreciate your support on the channel, and that's all that we ask. Along with you, please being respectful to each other, which you guys are doing an awesome job of. Faraday, I love that. Most likely we will see the more detailed camera video pics at trial. Yes. No way is all the evidence shown. It is not all in the PCA either. That's absolutely right. Thank you for reminding us all of that. There's much more to see coming at trial, and probably more DNA, quite possibly. And that is a really good reminder. It's easy to get your head spinning when we are talking or thinking about this case and kind of losing track of reality. So thank you for keeping us on base. Oh. Yeah. Let's see. Pippi Longstocking 220. Welcome. How are you doing? In my opinion, he's guilty and he knows he's busted. He is squirming like a worm behind his stoic stares. Most likely, he wants to give his best performance and go out with a bang and show everybody everything that he knows. That's definitely what I've gotten pegged for. You could be totally right with that. Yeah, they totally saw what he purchased. There's cameras at every register. Absolutely. Yeah, you know what, Lori? This is interesting. PCA also states his phone pings a Moscow tower on November 14th, but they don't believe he was in Moscow. I am so glad that you brought that up because, by virtues I was just sharing with you, having worked as a site acquisition specialist for a little over 5 years, the guy that I work for, I didn't get into that job mini career because it was something I wanted to do. It was a friend of mine who had this business. He's so successful. He's just a brilliant business dude. He's still a friend of mine, and he knows so much about everything telecom and pings. I'm writing this down in my little notebook right now because I have been wanting to ask him about that. Because that statement in the PCA was not clear to me. Am I missing something obvious? according to how y'all read that. Let me try to find that really quick. Let's see. November 14. Let's see. I'm just trying to skim it here for the date, but okay, here we go. And so I'm going to pull in this part of the PCA to take a look at with y'all. Okay. Investigators found that the Kohberger's phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022. But investigators do not believe that his phone was in Moscow on that date. Huh. Provides service to Moscow. So it would have to be a shared tower. Yeah, so I'm not going to get any further with that. Yeah, I'm going to ask my friend about that, and hopefully I'll have a decent answer for us. Let's see. Mitch says, Deb, I swear what she just showed dated for the 13th for the grocery store trip. What's your question about that? Yes, facts. Yeah, bring it. What's the question about that? Oh, and if anybody would like to come up and actually talk, probably going to be on for maybe like another half hour. It's not going to be a super long live stream this evening. So now might be your chance. Yeah, if you have a question about that, please ask it. I'm very familiar with that part of the PCA because I've just been sifting through it for like a month. I don't know. I've heard the black box only works if there's an accident, though. That's out of my wheelhouse. Does anyone know about that? This is a good question. I was talking about this with our What's the Obsession legal consultant actually a while ago when things started to get a little like robust as far as the motions and the court filings. Carrie says, wouldn't BK have to waive his right for a speedy trial for the date to be pushed back? So there was a term that he used, and I don't think I'm going to be able to recall it right now, but the gist of it is this. Yes, you know, they did want the trial to occur just outside of the speedy trial limits, and that is his right. But by virtue of the way things are proceeding, you know, and his counsel taking part in that, the natural pace that is creating, if that is going to push them past that speedy trial window and past his preferred trial time, you know, that's just how it has to go. And I'm sorry, again, there's a word for it. It's a legal word and I don't remember it, but it makes sense. Oh, and Jeannie says, yes, they would have to waive it. So, okay, technically, would they have to waive it? See, I'm not even sure about that. But, and then what WTO legal consultant said as well. Yes, it's like that. What they call it in the Murdoch case, tele something. Telemetry. I can hear Alec Murdoch saying telemetry data, telemetry. There it is, telemetry. Oh, yeah, I can give my opinion. Want to say obsession, keep it simple. On my opinion on WSU Kim, but said if you wanted to avoid it, that's fine. Oh, I'll give my opinion. I am disappointed that I've noticed some other channels on YouTube and spanning across into different platforms are giving her trying to give her a big old platform once again, just so we can continue to hurt and harm and re-injure the loved ones of the victims, including their family members, their brothers, their sister, their triplet siblings, their parents, their grandparents, their neighbors. You know, come on, people. Yeah. WSU Kim has been debunked by myself and my computer security dude. And I would roll all that information right out right here, but I don't know. It gets into doxy territory. I don't know. Tabby Cat says, someone had his phone. Who do you think had his phone, Tabby Cat? There's a link if anybody would like to come up and chat. Oh, hey, Suspicious. How are you doing? I'm always late, but worth the wait. You decide. Hey, friends, you are worth the wait, my darling. Let's get those likes up. Yes, please go hit the like button while you're at it. And I'll sing at your wedding. You're so funny. Let's see. Joe says, maybe it's good footage from the grocery store to show no marks or cuts. Well, you know, this discussion sort of came about during the last live stream. Would he necessarily have to have defensive wounds? I mean, this was a conversation. I don't think people were necessarily agreeing on it. But when you're thinking about man with a weapon like that versus, you know, young people in the state of mind that they were likely in at the time, somebody who, you know, has planned this, has a relative plan of attack in his mind, and has gotten himself in the right frame of mind, so to speak, versus 4 intoxicated young people who did not know that this evening, early morning was any different than any other of their life. You know, I think that he may not have defensive wounds. Someone had his phone. Do people have your phone? No, nobody better have my phone. Oh. Okay. So Keep It Sim says he was unusually wandering around random parts of the town after he turned his phone back on, is what I get from the cafe and the grocery store. Okay, so, all right. So this is what happened. I'm going to break this down for you. Guess y'all didn't watch my video. Bryan Kohberger phone dad and FBI cast deep dive part 1. Just kidding. But the answer does lie in there. Whoa, what is going on there? Weird. Oh, okay. No, I don't want that. I want this. Okay. Whoops.
So we're going to take a...
Okay, so you want the bit about the grocery store and all that jazz, right? Yes, you do. Okay.
Leaving the Kohberg residence and or that the phone is, which is north of Genesee, he notes. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the number of Bryan Kohberger traveling south. The ID is State Highway 95.
Okay, guys, so here we are. You know, it's 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m. Just, you know, a couple hours after these atrocities were committed. Okay, so now we're going into the morning of November 13th.
To Genesee, Idaho, then traveling west towards Uniontown, Idaho, and then north back into Pullman. So guys, that right there is in part how, well, it is how they determined the convoluted route that Bryan Kohberger allegedly took home from Moscow, Idaho to Pullman, Washington. It should also be noted that this route home from Moscow to Pullman that took about 45 minutes would typically take 10 to 15 minutes if you took the most direct transit route available. So obviously there was a reason for Bryan Kohberger, allegedly, to take this long route home rather than the far more direct way that would take at least half an hour less time to travel. At approximately 5:30 a.m., Bryan Kohberger's number is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, and consistent with the phone traveling back to Kohberger's residence. And then it says Kohberger's number movements are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that is observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at approximately 5:27 a.m. And of course, that observation was made by security camera footage. Based on a review of Bryan Kohberger's phone number, estimated locations, and travel, his phone number's phone travel is consistent with that of the white Hyundai Elantra. Further review indicated that Kohberger's number utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022, consistent with leaving the area of Kohberger's residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho, specifically.
Okay, so okay. So this is 9:30 on November 13th, and wait a minute. That I need to know. Where did he stop? Oh, okay. Oh, Jeannie, hold it. I want to make sure I'm addressing what you guys want to know. Where did he stop? Okay. Where did he stop if they tracked his every move? I'm glad you asked. We're getting there.
Bryan Kohberger's number utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residents between 9:12 a.m. and 9:21 a.m. The phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with Bryan Kohberger's phone number, traveling back to the area of Kohberger's residence and arriving at the area of his residence at approximately 9:32 a.m. Narrative then offers another important piece of information that Kohberger's phone did not connect to any towers near the 1122 King Road residence after November 13th. Nothing, nada, nothing at all. So Officer Payne then goes on to conclude, he says, by his experience and training and all the investigative product thus far, that it made sense that they were able to follow Bryan Kohberger's route via transmission to cell towers, consistent with the movement of white Elantra for a certain period of time, but did not have his phone registering with any cell towers between the hours of 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. because.
All right, and I hope this isn't a lot of words too, because it really is all critical to the question that was posed here. So from 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m., his phone was not registering with any towers.
That's consistent with his phone either being turned off or put into airplane mode. And his conclusion in the affidavit was Kohberger is attempting to conceal his location to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims for the alleged offense. Then goes on to say, on December 23rd, pursuant to the search warrant, I received those historical records for Bryan Kohberger's phone number for the account that was opened in June of 2022. After consulting with CAS, I was able to determine estimated locations for Kohberger's phone number from June 2022 to the present time. The time period authorized by the court occurred in the late evening and early morning hours on their respective days. One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, 37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County.
We already went over that.
Frame, and that is on Farm Road and Pullman Highway. So that basically got.
Okay, so this is a part you're going to want to listen to, and then I'm going to take you a little bit further. Okay,
verifies that Kohberger strong hell yes. Further analysis of the cellular data provided showed that the phone number utilized cellular resources on November 13th, consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho via U.S. Highway I-95. At approximately 12:36 p.m.
Okay, so now we're 12:36 p.m. on November 13th, okay, noon 30, from Pullman, Washington, to Lewiston, Idaho, all right? And then it says Kohberger's phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee.
Yeah, his phone number utilized Chef's store located. Surveillance footage.
That's what happens when I try to be
10
sneaky.
Port Drive in Clarkston, Washington.
Okay, Clarkston, Washington, November 13th, noon 30.
Surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef's store located nearby that location, the coffee shop, show the white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle number 1 drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with cellular data from Bryan Kohberger's phone number. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of Albertson's grocery store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkston, Washington. And again, surveillance footage identified a car consistent with a white Elantra. And additionally, interior surveillance at that grocery store.
So this is the only place we know of so far where they have just talked about interior surveillance footage.
Showed Bryan Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. And then there is a map that depicts Kohberger's possible.
This is the map that was in the PCA. It's awful. I know. I made it the best I could.
Path of travel right here and in the probable cause affidavit. So now, my friends, when you break that down, they are putting Bryan Kohberger's cell phone pinging in a certain location.
So we know that. All right, let me keep moving. Call. Boom.
For the 8458 phone.
Okay, so here I know it was a long way about to get there. And I think it was Mitch who asked the question. I think, or Joe. I lost track of who asked the question, but here we are. Additional analysis of records for Kohberger's phone indicated between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m. This is November 13th, guys. So 5:32 p.m., 5:36 p.m. A little more than 12 hours after the tragedy. Kohberger's phone utilized resources providing coverage to Johnson, Idaho. Okay. Kohberger's phone then stopped reporting to the network from 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. for 3 hours. Okay, so turned off or whatever for 3 hours, about 12 hours after the tragedy. That is consistent with Kohberger's phone being in that area. It was the same area that his phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. So why didn't I ever finish making that video? All right, so it's okay, I got the map. Because I have so many videos to make, because there's so many cases and so much information. Okay, all right, so just pause here. Okay. So this area down here by where it's like between Genesee, Idaho and Uniontown, Idaho, this is where Kohberger's phone turned off at 5:36 p.m. on November 13th. So early evening, the day of the M word, and it was off for 3 hours. This is the same damn convoluted route that Kohberger took from Moscow back to his home sweet home in Pullman, Washington, when he could have just traveled 10 minutes. He chose to travel for 45 to 50 minutes to take this convoluted route home. Was there a reason for doing so? I surmise the answer is yes. Interestingly enough, I know I'm repeating myself, but you gotta grasp this. Just a few hours later, around 5:30 p.m., just hours after the tragedy occurred, after he goes and gets his coffee and gets his groceries and does all that stuff, at 5:36, his phone turns off again down in that same area. And on this map would be between Uniontown, Idaho and Genesee, Idaho. And it's off for 3 hours. So what is down there, you may ask, other than the murder weapon and other evidence? Hi, I'm glad you asked. I would love to show you, actually. Okay, I think this is it. Just give me a moment here. Oops. I want the video. Let's see. Just one moment, guys. It's different. I've been looking at this on my phone. It's different, of course. On your computer. Let's see. Where is the video? Your profile. I'm so close. Oops. Yeah, I'm almost there. All right, if the video's not here, I'm just gonna, you'll get a sense from me reading. And okay, so I just want to give you a taste of what the area down where, Kohberger went out of his way to travel through this area when he could have gotten home in 10 minutes. He went out of his way, drove 45 to 50 minutes to make that big U shape to get home. And then his phone got stuck and turned off for 3 hours in this exact same spot later in that day, in early evening. So this is what we are looking at, guys. It's called the Lewiston-Clarkston River Valley, where we have Hell's Canyon, for example. So look at this terrain. And I didn't cherry pick, one thing that was like, oh my God, if there was ever a place to dispose of evidence, this would be it. The whole area is like this. So, beautiful. But anyhow, let's see. Decline cookies. I don't know. Okay, and so then if we go back, there's also our region is noted for its forest, agricultural production, scenic beauty, our unusual concentration of higher education institutions in a rural area. Sounds like perfect place for an intellectual snob. Climate and rivers. And it's also a great place to hide evidence. And these features lead to a lot more. Our lifestyles are a mixture of outdoor, recreational, leisure, community events, arts, and festivals. We are bordered by national forests, wilderness areas, pristine lakes, whitewater rivers, and rugged canyons. In less than an hour drive, you can make sure that your murder weapon is on its way. No, I'm sorry. Less than an hour drive, you can be fishing, camping, hunting, skiing, or sailing. Seriously, guys, need I say more? I mean, is there a more perfect place to ditch your fixed blade knife? Really? Come on. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Finally, I got to this. Honey fishing, where's the Hell's Canyon events? Let's check out honey fishing. All right, then we'll move on. You can also catch a big fish. Oh, wait, I'm not sure if you're seeing that. Sorry. You have to see this fish, though. Oh, there's a fish. Caught me a fish. So this is, this is the train we're dealing with. I don't even know what kind of bird that is. It's pretty cool. So there we go. So that's where, to answer a question that was asked a long time ago, that's where he got lost. And that's where the evidence and the murder weapon is. Absolutely. Absolutely, positively. Oh, let me try this riddle here. Question. A father and son are in a car wreck. The father dies. A son is injured and is rushed to the hospital. And the surgeon walks in and says, I can't operate on him. He is my son. How can this be? It's his mama, you sexist bastards. Clearly. Hi, Rosie. How are you doing? Oh, some of you got that as well a long time ago. Oh, I have to read this. The Zodiac Killer's daughter says, Brian's true identity is my ex-boyfriend, David Craig. All I know is no one else is talking about this. He's a blonde and a lot more handsome, but a whole lot older. What the heck? I just had to read that because I knew it was going to be perfectly nonsensical. Wait. So Joe Shirley says he leaves at 4:25 and is clean enough to shop. Where did he stop before shopping in 28 minutes? No. He didn't shop in 28 minutes. Maybe you've already figured this out. Oh yeah, you asked that like a really long time ago. I think what I just showed you answered those questions. I'm sorry. Let me get with it, man. I am so far behind. Yes. Yes, Mitch, just like the convoluted route he took back to Pennsylvania, allegedly. Yes, absolutely. Oh, Mindy Marsh, love your streams. Thank you so much. You follow facts and teach us so much, but you are kind to everyone. Oh, thank you. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. So Joe Shirley, was your question answered there? So he went to Alberts. He was caught in the Albertsons camera. It was at like noon 30 or something like that, approximately. Okay. So I'm glad that I went over that to like straighten things out. Yikes. If that's true, Nicole, and welcome, Nicole, please email me at wattsobsession@gmail.com. If for no other reason, to help you out. Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, I'm very sorry, Nicole. It's terrible. I'm sorry. I said if that's true. Nicole, I'm so sorry. That was really rude. I'm so used to, you know what I mean? I'm very sorry. That's terrible. Well, I mean, this is a question commonly asked. If Kohberger did do it, then he almost did it very well. But you want to know about what the roommates were doing. I am so surprised. Okay, so when I first posed this question, I uploaded a short little video earlier asking about, you know, given everything that we know and what Kohberger's attorneys are saying about how we might find out who will be providing his alibi. Although I try to stay away from roping the roommates in as much as possible because I do believe they are victims. I don't believe they did anything horrible. Connecting him to the roommates is one of the only things I could come up with. And that is my leave the roommates alone for the most part mind. But, you know, if it means we have to talk about them for justice to be served, then fine. I can't believe that more people haven't brought that up. So did BK even go there? Did BK even go there? Go where? To Moscow? To 1122? He does like to take the scenic routes, doesn't he? Hello, Dave Bass, 7783. I just recognize you for being in chat. Like, I'm talking early day watch chat before I even had a channel, I think. So this is what's called Resgate. I can't even pronounce that. You got one up on me, friend. And I hope you're well, Dave Bass. I think that I recall you went through some of a time, right? So hope that you're doing well. Wait, what is your evidence that the roommates didn't do it? Hmm. Hi, Anaphylaxis. How are you doing? Hey, Caleb Lee. It's great to see you. Okay, so supplementing everything that we discussed thus far. See, this is where I went in my mind. Let's see, let me get to the relevant part. Okay, we're going to pass that part. All right. Okay, hopefully we're going to be picking this up at a good spot here. So everything that we have discussed, and then in my mind, I guess I was also considering
So, in talking to the Drunk Turkey Show, Mrs. Gonsalves makes a reference to the probable David and the estimated time of the attack according to the probable cause affidavit. 5 pages into the PCA, following the section where the author of the PCA talks about the statements that Dylan Mortensen made to investigators that describe what she heard and saw, this is said regarding the time of the attacks. The combination of Dylan Mortensen's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen's phone, and video of a suspect as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. So what Kelly's mother shared with Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show that she had not spoken about before, and surprisingly, neither had her husband Steve, was that she had been made aware that after Dylan Mortensen saw that figure clad in black and heard all of the things she heard and was, according to her, in a frozen shock phase, she called all of the roommates in the house to check up on them to see what was going on, if they were okay, because obviously she was very alarmed. I'm going to play a short clip, and this is the creator, Jules of All Trades True Crime, stating her opinion about what we're talking about right now. And I think she states her opinion very clearly and candidly for sure.
None of that is in the little recap. And that's very curious to me because the information about the roommates is drastic. And it's not just about if they're talking to the victims' families or not. It was also said that Christy heard that the reason why the 4:25 a.m. time slot is on the PCA is because Dylan was calling all of the roommates. So that's proof right there that she was not in no crazy shock phase where she couldn't fathom to do anything but stand there and complete, oh my God. She had the ability to call several people's phone numbers. Didn't call 911 though. So you can dial all them digits, but you can't dial 3 of them. That doesn't make sense.
Christy Gonsalves said that she came to know that the estimated time of the attack in the probable cause affidavit was largely due to the records from Dylan's phone and her contacting all of the roommates in the house at a certain time. So that most likely was right before 4:25, hence the time frame that investigators narrowed it down to, with the attacks being between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Of course, with these other 2 pieces of information that they mention. Now, I think it is very interesting that in the probable cause affidavit, they say that they determined the likely time of the attacks due to these 3 things. And how interesting is this? Around in an unusual way or pattern, and we've learned some details about that. So you have to ask yourself, what is it about each of these 3 items that allowed investigators to zoom in on that time frame from 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. as being the likely time of the attacks? Well, I think number 3, the videos of the car in the area moving around, I think that one is rather obvious. So let's look at number 1 and number 2. Number 1, Dylan Mortensen's statements to investigators. So we know what Dylan said that caused investigators to perhaps start that time frame at 4 a.m. According to the PCA, it is said that Dylan told investigators that she woke up around 4 a.m. because she heard certain noises, right? But is it also something in Dylan's statements that we do not know that caused them to close out that time frame at 4:25 a.m.? Or number 2, looking at the idea of it was in part the forensic downloads of Dylan and Bethany's phones that allowed them to zero in on the time frame 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. So we can certainly surmise that there must have been activity on Dylan's phone that helped them to determine that time frame. But look, also Bethany's phone. I mean, what Christy Gonsalves shared with the Drunk Turkey Show, that we learned that Dylan Mortensen contacted all of the roommates after she knew that something was very strange and she saw the man clad in black with the bushy eyebrows. That makes sense that if Dylan Mortensen was texting or calling everybody, it would have been the forensic download of her phone that gave them an indicator of this time frame. But they specifically also mentioned Bethany's phone. So what is it about Bethany's phone, or that is on Bethany's phone, that helped them to zero in on that time frame of 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m.? Everything in this probable cause affidavit, and any probable cause affidavit, should be very accurate and intentional. So if it wasn't very intentional to include Bethany's phone in the criteria that was used to narrow down the time frame of the likely attacks, her name would not be here. And
All right. Can you guys hear me now? If you can't, I'm just going to have to end this because I have no idea why that is. Just let me know. Let's see. So it's 10:52. I'd love to know what two young men are saying after the leaked footage has been out. Are you referring to the guys I've been in contact with from the university? Okay. All right. I got you. No sound. Let's see. All right. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. So yeah, these glitches do happen. And thank you for understanding. I know some people are put off by it, but guys, I'm just doing my best, man. Like I told you 2 years ago, I didn't even know how to make a 30-second video. So yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to turn. Yeah, I mean, I still very much feel like that squeaky wheel is commiserating. Or reminiscing. I remember the old days when I was trying to figure out how to turn a microphone on and off. It doesn't sound like it should be that hard, does it, squeaky wheel? But sometimes things that shouldn't be that hard are very challenging for me. Pamela says, so defense thinks BF can be confused. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hi, Randy. Uh-oh, Jeannie just gave you a dang. Yikes. Oh. Yikes. Oh, wow. Dang. Okay. I can't pin that because, YouTube. Tech is sensitive. Did anyone hear Tyler show? Tyler fell, or is that who you're talking about? Well, Kathy Jean, so this is why, I've been really hesitant to come to the conclusion that I told you. I logically kind of had to deduce given what I know. And again, it's just my speculating, right? I hate to even bring it up because of what you're saying. If my friends, roommates were in danger and I was able to call roommates but couldn't call 911, I don't want to put that out there, but it's going to be very interesting at trial to see exactly how everything went down. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to end it for this evening before I have any more audio issues or anything like that. And thank you guys all so much for being here and being respectful. Thank you so much, moderators. You are absolutely freaking fantastic. And members, subs, people just checking us out. Maybe want to hit sub. Try us out. You can always unsubscribe. And, subscribing is no cost. Nothing but good things coming your way. Facts and truth. Oh, great to see you, K-Breeze. Yeah, well, Zodiac Killer says maybe the naked man was Bryan removing all of his clothes to quickly put them into a bag, then put on fresh clothes outside before making a run for it. Right. And if you're going to do that, man, what better place to be driving through, even though it's freaking way out of the way, than the Lewiston-Clarkston River Valley, where you have big ass fish like this. Yeah. And and big ass canyons like this, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. There is a fixed blade knife somewhere along there. Hey, Cole. I'm just finishing this up. Oh, wait, here. This is what I'm going to close you out with. Oops. Oh, okay. This is like a flip book. I thought it was going to be a video. So here we go. Oops. Oh, great. So you see like kind of the terrain. Ain't nothing but terrain. Look at that. I mean, seriously, this is just where, you know, Kohberger happens to drive through on the way home, even though it's 50 minutes out of the way. And then he gets lost there for 3 hours, just a few hours later in the same spot. I don't know, man. Lots of wine. So that's that. All right, guys. Oh, thank you, Cindy. People comment on that kind of stuff, and it really, you know, it stays with me. Oh, from Rosie. I always love that you say this. Love you too, Utter. Take care, everyone. Feel your personal best. Stay safe. Lock all your doors and windows. Please do. And choose kindness, please. Special thank you to all of the moderators, except for me, and especially Rosie, for all of your hard work. Yes, I echo every syllable. Awesome. So I do have to tell you, just you know, on August 13th, it's going to be the 5-year anniversary of the Watts family tragedy, which was such a terrible tragedy. And I have 2 things coming out that I've been working on for a long time for that 5-year anniversary. And I hope that neither of them are going to be super controversial, because that's not what I'm trying to do for that 5-year anniversary. One is my full-length Watts documentary, which is I'm having a hard time editing it down. And then the other one is just a factual report of everything having to do with Nutgate. And then I'm probably going to put Nutgate down forever and just let what I put out there so far speak for itself. Squeaky Will says, it doesn't really matter where the murder weapon is. All Kohberger has to do is produce the knife sheath he bought from Amazon. We'll let him out tomorrow. I don't know about that. All right, everybody, please stay safe. Have a great night. And I hope to see you really soon. All right, and if y'all don't mind, everybody please hit like on the way out. Just to answer your question, Angel D, at this time, they do not believe anyone else was involved. Angel D, yes, absolutely. To your question, yes. And I've spoken more on that, and I will do so again. But yes. And everyone, please be safe and take care of yourself. Life is hard, and sometimes, you can't rely on anyone else to do it. So, above all, my friends, take care of yourself. You deserve it.